Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat because I got this new mic and I want to make sure it works. So please make sure you show me your, if you could tell me, let me know if you guys can hear me. But welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to my channel. Before we get started, let me know also where you guys are tuning in from, what part of the world, because I know we have viewers from all over the world, okay? But thank you for joining. Tonight I have a special treat for you guys. I've received a number of inquiries about either the best countries or the safest countries to birth a child, or which are the best countries to travel to receive any type of fertility treatment. And I actually covered both in separate videos. I'll make sure I put a link in the description a little bit later and also in the chat. So there's a lot of interest about birthing abroad. And I think especially with the political climate as it is, and in the US specifically, knowing the rates of mortality rates for women, maternal mortality rates for Black women in the US, and how deplorable they are, I thought it was appropriate that we would address this from that standpoint. And I chose to bring on doulas for a specific reason. Many people who have contacted me, who are viewers on the channel, who have asked questions, have asked about doulas, and specifically because they felt they were not heard in the States. They felt that they wanted to have a specific birthing plan. And if you're unfamiliar with giving birth in the US, a lot of times, unfortunately, physicians are encouraging a lot of individuals, a lot of mothers to have C-sections. People are selecting their exact dates of when they're going to deliver rather than just going through the natural process. And unfortunately, a lot of these things, if you decide to go through the natural process and use maybe a doula, maybe a midwife, whatever it may be, unfortunately, a lot of that is not covered by insurance. Okay. And so even if you decided to go that route, then you'd have to pay additional monies that perhaps you didn't plan for. So this is another reason why people are looking into what's called maternity tourism. And maternity tourism is simply medical tourism, but it's specific to maternity, whether it's you trying to have a child, attempting, whether it's through IVF or some other means, or those who are just interested, maybe they're already pregnant and they don't feel that safe in the US. So they decided, you know what, let me have experience my pregnancy in another country and give birth in that other country as well, for whatever reason. Even if it's in a hospital, a lot of times there's usually physicians come in only to write off anything or to come in if there's any complications. But a lot of it in other countries is done very differently than it's done in the US. You may find that midwives run the show, physicians just come as shift change, find out what's going on, and maybe prescribe. So there's a number of different ways it can be done. And we're going to talk about specifically today or tonight, we're going to talk about doulas and birthing plans and what you should ask for and look for when you're looking for a doula, especially if you decide to birth abroad, because it is an option. So welcome, welcome, everyone. Hi, Dr. Linda, I see you. Reggae Locks, thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to go ahead and bring on my guests and make sure you all can see them. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So go ahead, Portia, if you don't mind introducing yourself first, and then Dee, please, and a little bit of your background.
Sure. Good day, everyone. My name is Porsche Holland-Otunba. I am the CEO and lead consultant of Reclaim Black Motherhood, LLC, based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but we are now moving global, which is exciting. I come to this work being a birth trauma survivor, being one that had an unfavorable birthing experience with my first child almost 8 years ago now. And it just brought something up in me to find out what's going on in these now hashtag Black maternal health streets, and put me on a rampage to educate, advocate, and serve and support families. So I have went from direct support as a birth and postpartum doula, certified lactation counselor, certified childbirth educator, to now doing more work on the research, consulting, and training of professional side. As with the crisis that was just mentioned, there is not just a need for the families to be supported and served, but also for some disruption and even dismantling of systems. So I have the blessed privilege of being able to impact both areas. And I'm excited to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dee?
Well, Portia, you are my sister in the fight. I certified 12 years ago as a birth doula. And as you know, with Black women, if there's a certification, we want it. We want to have it because we want to be the best prepared to help families. Most of us are entering this space because we are passionate about the health of women, around Black women, Black birthing people, as we expand our knowledge in and make more requirements of those who care for us to integrate us in the decision-making process. So not only are we asking our clinicians to be more patient-centered, I'm working with families so that they know how, and they have the information on the vocabulary to advocate for themselves. What I find is that you don't know what you don't know. And so your doula is here to know, so that you know, okay, so this is a concern. What questions should I ask when I'm preparing for a doctor's appointment? Or here are the choices. These are some of the data that the doctor is looking at. Here are some choices you need to begin to make. Here are some things you need to integrate into your plan. Here are the national and international guidelines that should guide your care, so that you can ask and advocate for what you need beyond healthy mother, healthy baby. So as a wife and mom of 3, I thought I had the best births. And what I found out is that grace covers a lot. Grace covers a lot of what you don't know. I will not say ignorance. I will say what you don't know. And I don't think anyone should enter a medical situation depending on grace. I think you need to go in with some folks that know and that give you the best advantage to have a birth that that gives you a space to be respected, and that you have dignity, and as much that you are a part of the decision making. I find that what's happened with the dozens and dozens and dozens of families that I've worked with is moms come away from that first birth dissatisfied, knowing that I want something different. What I'm trying to do is to tell first-time mamas, don't even go down that road. You have choices, you have options. And that's what we're here to do, is to now open the world up to you. It's not just where can I birth. Give you one example. I didn't know that I could have gone across state lines to have my baby. I thought I had to have my baby in my city,
And that's medical tourism as well. People only think about it going across international borders, but even going across state lines or even outside of your region, that's considered medical tourism as well. So you're right. I mean, information is key, right? And that's the reason why we're here. I want to make sure. I mean, I asked you guys to introduce yourselves, and I didn't even introduce myself. For those of you that are maybe new to my channel, hi, I'm Dr. Natasha Ramantal. I'm also known as the Medical Tourism RN. So on my channel, I inform and educate Black women and those that support us on all aspects of medical tourism. And my goal is to help you all make the most informed decisions to have the best outcomes, no matter where you decide to go, whether it's for birthing abroad, surgery, or treatment. And if you're watching a replay, thank you and welcome. Welcome to the channel. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe. I want to make sure that we can start getting into some details, because in the intros alone, you've heard a lot from Portia as well as from Dee. And one of the things I heard was the experiences, personal experiences that you both have had, have kind of led you down this road to being a doula. And I think it's interesting, just because I know what your 9 to 5s used to be, I'd love for you both to share that with the audience about what you were doing, because I know it wasn't even inside any form of healthcare whatsoever, which this is well care. I call this well care, what you're doing as a doula, and just share how you transitioned into becoming a doula. And then we can start talking about specifics about what people should look for, what you offer, and those kinds of things. Okay. So if I'll go ahead, Porsche, and then I'll ask Dee also to give her experience.
Sure. So yeah, this work kind of found me, but there were some traces throughout my story of life. Nothing is by chance for me. And so there's no mistake that I was always in just enthralled by the pregnant body, that I always had a baby on my hip from Sunday school as a little girl, that I babysat and nannied and taught camp. And did all those things. And also that I'm a proud graduate of the Tuskegee University in Alabama. And just, yes, come on, just walking that campus and being like, look at what these nurses have done, being in spaces where the grand midwives traveled, and just being on such sacred ground and having amazing friends that were nursing majors. It just didn't even click then. And so though I have a biology degree, my path took me into national service, civic engagement, as a instructor at Drexel University, and as a consultant in that regard. And so that birth in 2017 shifted everything when I started literally raising hell all around Philly. Like, I gave birth at the nation's first hospital and it was trash. And so through that, people started introducing me to training opportunities. They're like, well, you sound like you'd be great at this. So I started as a breastfeeding peer counselor, which breastfeeding was a challenge for me. I had a cesarean birth, had some delays in lactogenesis, which I now know as a certified lactation counselor, had some challenges. A nurse that I guess was trying, but really interrupted the whole lactation journey. So I'm like, I would learn breastfeeding, the thing I'm struggling with, as I'm hybrid feeding, doing formula and pumped milk as an exclusive pumper. But that's how I trained, immediately made a connection in the birth doula world, immediately got involved with a training that was connected to Penn's medical system, which is so interesting that the place of trauma was also a place that I've had a rebirth as well through a connection. And trained and just took off from there between my rants on Facebook and doing community doula work and approaching beautiful Black bodies in the street. That's really how I got started.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. And Dee, can you share your journey to becoming a doula?
Well, you got 2 HBC grads here, so
3. Natasha hates you. I have to plug it.
So graduate of Oakwood College, now Oakwood University, psychology graduate. I always knew I wanted to do something around women's health. I thought I wanted to be an OBGYN, and the closer I got to seeing and understanding that system, it just didn't connect with my heart. If I had known about being a midwife, you would be talking to a midwife right now, because I really wanted to be a care provider, a full spectrum care provider. So not just around birth, but the full spectrum of reproductive health. And so that's literally every undergrad and graduate project was always around women's health, Black women's health. As I got into graduate school, health education, health promotion, because I wanted to do more community engagement, stakeholder engagement, bringing people together. Worked in the research environment at UAB in Birmingham, Alabama, where, translating research to community partners, really engaging the community so that when researchers are considering what the need is, that they are hearing and that they're coming back to share the results. So community health, winding work for a hospital health system, and eventually got into HR benefits. And so literally now on the corporate side, helping employees to leverage their the benefits that they have available, things like parental leave, mental health benefits, and how to investigate what their plan offers. Because a lot of companies have benefits that sometimes if you don't ask, they're not sharing what is fully available, like pelvic floor health access, virtual access to a doctor of physical pelvic floor therapy, physical therapy. And so when people know how to use the levers that are available to them, they can be a better consumer of their.
Oh, I think she froze. Is that me? Okay, defroze for a moment, but what we're going to do is we'll push forward. Can you hear me, Portia?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay, it froze on you right when you were finishing up about looking into various benefits to ask the right questions. And you're right. I think I'd like to touch on that specifically as it relates to doulas, because I know there's a lot of conversation, because there seems to be a desire, not only from Black women, but I find especially from Black women in the US to want a doula. You know, someone who advocates for them, who helps them, who listens to them and talks with them about choices, about how they would like to have their birthing experience. And so I was going to ask you both to kind of weigh in on insurance covering or not covering doulas and midwives, because I know that in certain states, I believe it's midwives, correct me if I'm wrong, that are covered, not every state, but they're starting to. So I was just curious about doulas, because they're different. And I think it's important to establish the difference and know for people to understand, because doulas tend to offer a lot of what I'm hearing is missing when you go the traditional medical route. So either one of you can chime in on that one. It would be great to hear from you both.
Go ahead, Portia.
Okay, well, I'll just start off by saying there are many differences in the U.S. state by state that you have to consider, and it is painstakingly difficult and stressful to think about what's available to you and what is not. And so that whole crossing lines absolutely does happen for people. And some people feel like they have to, particularly if they want a birth center experience or a home birth experience. So unfortunately, our CPMs, our certified practicing midwives or professional midwives, and our traditional midwives are typically not covered by insurance. Our nursing midwives, however, because they have a nursing degree, they can work in a hospital system or in a birth center experience, and there will be a suite of insurances that are accepted. And so that is something to consider when people are like, you have 3 provider choices, your OB-GYN, your midwife, right? Or your home birth kind of midwife situation. Thinking about your finances is going to make a difference. And so for doula, since we're private, but in some cases starting to become part of hospital systems, you might be able to get some type of packaged deal if it could be covered by your insurance, as we see Medicaid expansion kind of happening throughout the country and different states advocating for it. I have my own personal issues with it and have kind of advocated against it in Pennsylvania since the very beginning that the conversations were happening because of the inequitable pay that doulas get. And so, yes, you might see a doula service for $1,500, but that's based on the cost of living, the services being available to you, your expertise, leaving their children and family members and loved ones behind, and the whole nine. And so for some states, there's that option there, but there's also community-based doula. So is there a nonprofit in your area that might train and or match doulas with families in your city or your county where you can think about getting the service that way, because they might have grant funding or some type of gifting that helps reduce the cost for families, but ensures that the professional is getting paid. Because that's the bottom line for me. This is a job. It's not a play. It's not a hobby. If you're well off and you have what you need to take care of your family and you want to volunteer, kudos to you. but the vast majority of birth workers and doulas are trying to take care of their families as well. And a lot of them have young children and they're not making it. These are the calls I'm getting daily as a birth worker coach that's helping to build people's business side and capacity. Was on the phone with someone today in tears, don't have the money to take care of their own family and cutting costs to serve the community. Wow. And so if grants and funding can exist to help pay a doula on your behalf, that may also be an option. And that could come from local funds, private foundations, and even crowdfunding. So just wanted to point that out there in terms of some of the ways that support is coming up financially, but it's always great to inquire with your health insurance provider. HSA, FSA, I've gotten paid through that for people. I provide them an invoice. They're able to get their money right back. There's a variety of ways that it can be done. Maybe a payment plan if your doula is open to that. Virtual services are cheaper than in-person services, right? And so there are some different options, but it really is going to depend on what's available in your locale, unfortunately.
You know, that's a very important point. And Dee, I'd love for you to chime in on this, especially how you are involved with benefits and seeing HSA, FSA, and what's included in that, and whether doulas, how are they being paid out in that as well? So if you don't mind sharing your experience on that.
Yeah, the same as Portia. The HSA, FSA is something that you're reimbursed back from. So if you are contributing to that, if your employer has that plan available to you, you can. Doulas are an eligible childbirth education benefit, and so under that, because we are non-clinical, it is a part of what is available. But what we've been able to see with companies like Progeny, Maven, they're adding doula services as a part of the packages for things like IVF. And so that's another way doulas are being brought into the health caring space, is because they're a part of this group of services that employers are paying for, so that their employees can have access to it. It is an up service beyond the regular healthcare package, but a lot of employers, depending on the industry, are adding that to gain a competitive advantage within the hiring space. The other, something Portia said, I do accept a lot of the local grants that may pay only 1/4 of my regular doula fee, but that is at a discretion. And what I have found is I want to be a happy doula. You want a happy doula that is not trying to figure out how am I going to put gas in the car and put food on the table and continue to serve at a capacity that I feel is beneficial to this family. And so I say, hey, if you want a doula and you know you want a doula, start early. Ask your friends and family instead of, or in addition to your birth registry. I do gift certificates. People can fund. Portia talked about crowdfunding. Hey, I want a doula. My doula can help with my birth. Or hey, could you pay for an hour of postpartum care for me at home? And my hourly rate for postpartum care can look a lot more doable for some families. Mm-hmm. As much as I am passionate about the birthing part of what doulas do, there is a lot that happens around maternal morbidity and mortality that I need communities to understand. The reason why Global Birthing Village exists is because I have felt a need to show a path, to give the breadcrumbs to take care of yourself, especially during the postpartum time. the rest, the help, the nurturing that a mother needs, that a baby needs, that a family needs, cannot happen in a system that is pulling you back into the workforce.
Right.
And so I think leveraging your benefits is definitely one approach. Being supported, that community caring to help you get doula coverage if it's not something that is a part of your employer is definitely an additional strategy.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting you brought that up, because the way that birthing and even maternity leave and paternity leave are done in other countries is so much more generous. I remember I did some training when I was becoming an RN in Chile in South America. And I remember we were there on a maternity ward. We got to rotate through. And I remember the person who was in charge of it had just come back from maternity leave. And I said, "Oh, okay. How old's your baby?" She said 2. I said, "Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You came back from maternity leave when your child was 2, a toddler?" She said, "Yes. And I'm actually pregnant again. So I'll be going out again." And she said that the protections in Chile were that you could have 2 years of what they call the bonding time with your child. And they had to keep your job, and certainly someone else could fill in, but they could not terminate you from that. And then when you came back, if you happen to get pregnant again, same process all over again. And they did have coverage in the country. So they did get a portion of their benefits, but in terms of the birthing part, that was something that was already free in the country. So it's established at a country level where it's not considered a privilege. It is a right. And it's sad, because I was going to say in the US, I was going to say, do both of you cater specifically to Black women, or do you take all types of patients when you're doing your doula services, providing them?
So for me, my call, I feel like, to my particular demographic was the Black identifying community, as I'm a Black mother and I identify as a Black mother, hence Reclaim Black Motherhood. I have supported, however, people of all kinds of background situations, because if they vibe with me, they vibe with me, right? And if someone told them, talk to Portia, they're going to hit me up. And so, but they absolutely unapologetically understand my mission, because the data speaks for itself. We're just worse for everything. So I think they get that. And even people have paid me, in terms of clients on the professional side, because they're like, you're doing this particular work for a demographic I don't identify, but I understand the value, and I want to even support the mission by being a client or donating. So,
oh, that's great. That's great. And Dee, do you specify also, or how does it work for you with your services?
Like I said, Portia and I are in agreement with that my passion is Black identifying people, but I have supported people from all spectrum, the entire spectrum, because no doubt about it. I mean, as a developed country, we are at the bottom of maternal health care in the birthing space. And so, there are a lot of reasons why I'm passionate, but I offer assistance to anyone. I have a website, but 99% of people who come to me, it's by word of mouth referral. Okay. And so people who know me, now that's kind of why I'm on social media, because now I understand how that can be a way to champion the community that I'm building it in the way that I'm doing it for people who are either living abroad or wanting specifically to travel abroad for birth and or postpartum time. So I feel like that the pandemic itself opened a lot of new ways that people are open to us supporting them. Absolutely. So that I think that needs to be said is I don't discriminate. I do have a standard for respect toward me, and definitely that I give to people that I work with.
No, I thank you for clarifying that. I mean, obviously, like you said, the Black maternal mortality rates in the US are so bad. If that's who your focus is on, I mean, that's the reason for this channel, I'll be honest with you. But I would love to hear how you both feel your role as a doula plays in maybe even reducing Black maternal mortality and hopefully improving birth outcomes. What ways do you see your services as a doula and as a doula coach hopefully improving those numbers?
In addition to being a CLC, a childbirth educator, I'm also a American Heart Association CPR instructor. All my families as a standard. I don't force them, but they're going to get some CPR education. Okay. And that is because I've had families who have lost an infant. I've had families who have had a choking toddler who were grateful that they had the information. And I feel like this is, yes, I'm entering people's lives at a particular time, but I can guarantee story after story, when people encounter a doula and an education, a teaching, a caring, a loving on you kind of environment, they learn skills about how to advocate for themselves that they take into the pediatrician's office, into the classroom with their children's teacher. These are generalized skills that can be generalized in other parts of their life. I've helped moms find work because they've been like, I want to be home with my baby. I want to have time to recover. One story, the girl that when I started my locks, I didn't realize that barbers, beauticians don't get PTO. They don't have time off. They're not they're not covered by FMLA because they don't have they're not a part of a conglomerate of people that would cover. She was back on the job after a week. And I was like, what are you doing with your newborn so that I can get my hair done? I was like, what is going on? And she said, if I don't work, we don't eat.
Oh, that's a tough one.
I teach how to check your blood pressure, writing it down. Don't let anybody leave you without telling you what your numbers are. You know it before. Mamas, they telling me my baby is breech. I'm like, every time we check, your baby is head down. Where are they putting the Doppler? Like, be the detective of your body. That is what I think the doula experience shares and invites questions into a space, because we take time. You're not going to get out of you may get a 1 hour phone call, but we're going to have a 2 hour visit. We're going to touch. We're going to hug. We're going to cry. This is the kind of, Shafia Monroe says, community caring. We are missing as a culture, community caring, and doulas and midwives, especially doulas and midwives of color. This isn't just a job, a business. This is our heart work. You will always hear me say it's why I balance a full-time job and I do this work. So, Porsche.
That's so real. In addition to that education piece, which I absolutely concur, and it made me think about the Black Coalition for Safe Motherhood, who I have the privilege of serving as their ACT facilitator, training program instructor. And so ACT, ACTT, is an acronym around advocating for yourself, Some Mama Shafia contributed to it, but some OBs that essentially stepped back to look to say, what can we equip families with that have to interface with the medical system? Not everyone's having a home birth, okay? It's not even enough midwives for that, so let's be real. But since we do have to come into this space, what are the tools we're going to use? And so that training is something that is amazing for perinatal professionals, from pregnancy all the way through postpartum. If you serve families, it's for you. But the Black Coalition for Safe Motherhood also offers these workshops in the community so that parents, aunties, block captains, pastors, everybody can learn about this and pass it on. And since I've integrated into the ACT family, and now they are one of my largest clients, I find myself even teaching my 7-year-old. So she knows when she goes to the dentist how to say, this is what I want at this time. I'm ready for this, not ready for that. Explain this to me. Like, she can literally run any of her medical appointments, and I'm just sitting there in case somebody do something where I need to, off.
Yeah. You taught her to be an advocate for herself.
Yes, ma'am. We're not playing those because mama not going to always be there. See, my
That's right.
Taurus bull energy will also come out in this protection piece. And so that's sometimes the other piece where if it's danger, having a doula can also sometimes straight up be a shield. Like, Sophia, you said you wanted what again? Because I don't think that nurse heard you. Do you need me to translate it? Oh, okay. Or they said stop touching them. So now I'm right here. Like, they said stop touching them, and that's part of the reason why I had to step out of the hospital space, because incarceration don't look good on you, girl. It just don't. It don't look good on me.
Yeah, it's very different.
Absolutely, another way we show up is either being a physical advocate or training your partner and other support person on how to be a physical advocate, right? Mm-hmm. Because their voice also speaks more volumes than mine. So wherever someone is not single and they have someone else in their corner, I'm prepping and training them as well, because chances are I'm sitting in the background with the pen and the pad. I'm ready to make a report if you need it. I'm ready to call in the reinforcements if you need it, but you and your family need to speak for you and your body. And so that education plus that physical presence can really be a cocktail, a jambalaya, a stew of just something amazing in the birthing and postpartum space.
No, that is key, because I was actually going to ask you to share some of the support and services of a doula, because we know it ranges from emotional, physical, and even informational support, that type of thing that you provide at various points with the pregnancy process. I mean, during pregnancy, labor, then postpartum, and not only to the person giving birth, but to others that are caring for them, significant others, whatever they may be. So please share the range of things. I know it's advocacy for certain, but share the range of services and support that you offer, even down to the social aspect, if you connect them with any resources that may help them with things like social determinants of health, access to nutrition, mental health support, things like that.
This is such a beautiful gift to work with families. I think sometimes in the clinical environment, it just is you, the patient, and the doctor. I have the dolls that help the younger children to understand birth. And what breastfeeding is going to look like with mom. I have a whole stack of books over there about rebozos and mommy's milk. And, there's a book about a mom that is pregnant and she has an older child who isn't all that thrilled about the new baby. Sometimes you need to give a child the voice to be able to articulate what's happening. And we use mediums to be able to do that. As someone who's married, I come at the doula space from a fully, I have an expectation that a partner will step up, that if they have a desire and the birthing person wants their partner to be there, that it is not an unsafe or unhealthy or unhelpful situation, that a lot of times partners are looking for, how can I understand what's happening here? What can I do? A lot of times they just want to know what can I do that will be helpful. And when I say, look, you want delayed cord clamping, then let's put that in the birthing plan, and let's have you, when the baby's head crowns, start a prayer. I want the baby, the first voice the baby to hear is mine. Whatever helps them to integrate into the space. Diapering, just what can I do? The best advocate for my breastfeeding moms is their partner. Like, you are all hormonal and everything, and you're like, why won't the baby attach? And he's like, oh, try sideline. Let's try football hold. Let me go get your water. Do you need a snack? Like, these are the things they want to know what to do. I think the third cog that I work with, that I say I'm not in competition with you, is mothers. So the mothers, the grandmothers are like, who is this person that I don't know in the space? And look, I have loved up on some grandmamas. I have put them on the throne of dignity and love. And we're gonna make sure that once mama has the golden hour, once breastfeeding is done, that grandmama is properly positioned, that she is in a place of honor in this space. And that if there's a role, dabbing the head with a towel, making sure that she empties her bladder, drinks, is drinking water, has lip balm. They want to know that you are not a threat in an environment that is considered a family, can be considered a family space. And I love doing the CPR and with the grandmamas, because they want to know, how have things changed since I had my children? This car seat isn't a luxury item. It's a necessity. We're going to be rear facing until this baby outgrows that Britax car seat, because this is the best safety method that we have to keep our babies safe in a moving vehicle in an accident. So those are the ways and the connections doulas can build with families, that I think helps us to be considered partners and not this outside entity.
It's true. Do you guys collaborate with other Black, say, health workers, like Black midwives, maybe Black healthcare professionals specifically? Because, and I'm only saying that because in the US, with the maternal mortality rate, I know that there's a lot of attention that you both place on Black women. And I'm just curious if you partner with others that are in line with what you're doing, that are maybe outside of your scope, but still would be complementary to what you are offering to the person giving birth and the family as well.
Yes, for me, I would say, first of all, I 100% echo everything that Dee just mentioned, in that I am a huge proponent for birth workers, doulas, however you want to frame yourself, birth keepers. We should absolutely be master resourcers. I'm not saying you got to have every certification in the book and try to do everything, baby, because you're going to get.
Because we will. You will try.
But I'm trying to tell you, you got to zero in on that market if you're running a business. Now, if this is just play on the side, but if you're running a business, zero in so you can be clear. But being a master resourcer. And so with that, it would behoove you to know, at least in your geographical touch, who is who. Yes. Because I'm telling you, so in Philly, when I started ranting and raving, your girl made sure she knew everybody. My social media presence grew because I was just following all the people that were doing amazing work, all the organizations, all the social services groups, all the teen parenting programs, all of those types of things, home visitors, nurse home visitors, right? I was a NFP, nurse family partnership mom. And so that was important to me, but I made it my business to know anyone that touched the perinatal space, to the point that now when people hit me up, I literally have perinatal mental health therapists, and I'm also certified in perinatal mental health. I have them DMing me, Porsche, I know you retired, but who's the best doulas in Philly right now? Okay. I have parents hitting me up. So, okay, Porsche, you still doing lactation, right? But what about for Cairo? Okay, I got 3 people for you. What you need, right? Now, granted, Philly is a mecca in terms of some of these services and resources: craniosacral therapy, body work, herbalist, traditional midwife, like what you want, we have it, right? And I know every community may not have that plethora of things, but if there's 5 people that's doing the work, I need y'all to be like linked up. Like I need y'all to act like y'all family and cross refer. Granted, they're doing great work and the reputation precedes itself. But I absolutely pride myself on knowing who to call and and even having direct connections at local organizations. But even, you need somebody at AmChip, we need somebody at Health Connect One. Evidence-based birth. Got you. I'm cool with Dr. Decker. That's my homie. Like, I make it my business to kind of know where these people are that have been vetted, right? So that we can actually come alongside in this communal village kind of a way, right? And so part of that is the work that I do with the Maternal Wellness Village in Philly that's curated by Oshun Family Center. We are the leading perinatal. We go from everything from fertility all the way through sustainability and your children being older and health. We are the experts in our city. And so we put on Black Maternal Health Week events, one of the largest in the nation, week-long events. We meet services in a village way. And so that is just kind of a part of who I am, right? Like, got that from being in the church growing up, but also from being in Alabama, baby. If you didn't link up with somebody, you wasn't going to eat. You had chicken, your neighbor had broccoli, and somebody else had rice. And then you can eat. And so that's literally how I treat this work, so much so that we bring each other money, we bring each other certifications, we bring each other awards and recognition. Like, we literally move money, move mountains amongst us, because it's like we've identified each other, and we have everything we need right here to service our families. Why not? So it would behoove you. I don't care if you're in the smallest rural town or if you're in a big city like Philly, it will behoove you to get you hopefully at least a half a dozen people on your squad, I would say, that represent areas outside of yours. So I can make recommendations for midwives. I know the lactation folks. I know pelvic floor therapists, Cairo, that are Webster certified to work on the pregnant body. I got the herbalists, like I got the postpartum people, the infant sleep. Like, what do you need? So that absolutely makes a difference, because I don't want to know it all or do it all. That's beyond my scope.
That speaks to their resourcefulness, as you mentioned before, and that's true. So given that my channel is all about medical tourism and we talk about maternity tourism, I was just going to say, so what are some of the questions that Black women should ask if they decide to use a doula abroad? You know, how do they know what to look for? What are the top things they should be asking?
Let's see. So my most recent trip to Colombia, I did more of that research there than I did at any of the other recent places that I visited. But to get to understand, so some of the things that we have in the States, you have to dig a little bit more for. So one of the things that when a pregnant person comes to me and they're like, you know, do I have a good doctor that will allow me to be able to do X, Y, or Z, or is maybe open for me to have a VBAC, which vaginal birth after cesarean. We can look at, even in Alabama now, we can look at what is their percent of births and their percent of cesarean births, because it is major abdominal surgery.
Right.
That's not the system outside the US. It may be countrywide, it may not be within the city or within, with that particular physician. So you've got to hit those local networks. There are a lot of women in Colombia, women in Medellin, sisters, brothers and sisters. Those are the spaces that you need to get in. And there are, usually most countries have at least a couple of parenting groups that are at the city level. So that's what I did. Was I actually met my client in the women's group. And so we met and we talked. And then while I was there, I actually saw the chiropractor, because I don't recommend somebody I haven't used. That's not how we operate.
Right.
And even if I haven't used them, I'm going to go into the group with sisters that I trust, people that I rub shoulders with, and ask, who would you recommend and why? And when you've been doing the referral service, you can see some red flags. The red flags to look for, to ask about. And so I think in the medical tourism space, you definitely should be around birth. Credentialing is definitely important. Knowing what are your options for birthing, because sometimes home births or midwives are not legal in some countries. So you have to kind of get in the weeds and find out who's doing what, because in the country and outside the country, the birth has to be documented for you to get any documents, because we don't want anyone to take your baby, because we need someone to prove that we saw this baby come from you. And so having a birth certificate, you want to make sure that you are in an environment that would allow you to be able to get that, because that's how your baby's going to get a passport. Whether you want to travel in the country, you're going to have those documents. I also have moms look for what level of neonatal intensive care unit do they have? And so, because if you're in an area, some people like to be remote, and I'm like, that's nice for when you are on the travel side, but when you're on the medical side, you want to know, if I have an emergency, where is the level of care? Is it in country? Is it out of the country? You need to make sure your passport is good, so that if your baby does need to be taken out of the country, that you are, that you're prepared in that way as well. So definitely getting in the groups, and finding out who are also the care providers. So are there international, let's see, IBLCE has their licensure that is the International Board certification for breastfeeding if you are having issues. But a lot of times it is social learning, it is community learning. But if you need that level of clinical care, do that work ahead of time. And a lot of the care that I know comes to your home. They come to your home for your care. Now, some of the pregnancy care is done in a clinic or birth center, but your blood work testing can be done in your home. Those mental health, I would suggest finding out who are the care providers, because many of them will come to your home for your visits. So the way that medical care occurs outside the US, you have that WhatsApp access to your doctor. So my client was saying, hey, I'm having, I've been kind of having this, these symptoms, do I need to come in, or is this an emergency and I need to go, to the hospital? You have WhatsApp access to your doctor. It is a lot of times when you're in this environment, you're not prepared for the level of access to your clinical team,
Right.
and how things are going to look different for your research, but who are also the providers of their care, and what can they do at a convenience to you, and the cost, y'all.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure when you are researching ahead of time, please do not look at it from the lens of the US. The care that you receive, healthcare in general, not only with birthing, but all the healthcare that you receive outside of the US is quite different, and not in a way that you may think. You will be brainwashed by the US to think that the only healthcare is the US healthcare system and the way it's done here. Oftentimes you'll find that not only from a cost perspective, but a quality perspective, you are getting a lot more for your money than you are in the US. You will find that the physicians in other countries and other care providers are using WhatsApp, like Dee mentioned, and they're asking you to take a picture. They're calling you at different hours of the night. These are things that are unheard of in the US. I don't know anyone that makes house calls anymore in the US, honestly. And that's something that is pretty common in a lot of other countries. And it's not at a additional cost. They're literally saying, let me check on my patient. So please do not think that everything is at a cost. That's something that is very US centric. And it's something that you do need to make sure you're researching ahead of time. I want to just recap for maternity tourism. Make sure you're hitting your local networks, essentially community, whether that is parenting groups that are expat, repat groups of the place that you're considering to ask for recommendations or referrals. Why do you like this physician? Or what type of physician and why. And then also knowing your level of care that's available wherever you decide to birth, in case there are complications, because that can happen anywhere, right? Specifically, Dee mentioned the neonatal ICU. If something were to go wrong and you happen to need that type of care, making sure that that's available. And I'm learning the medical landscape as well of the country you're deciding to go to, because you need to make sure that you find out what types of things are offered, whether it's offered at home. Like she said, labs are at home. You don't have to go out and travel to a laboratory or wait in line all these times. People will come to the home and take it from you, or even mental health providers, because that goes hand in hand with birthing. I mean, the entire process, making sure that you are mentally aware and also mentally capable of dealing with whatever coping mechanisms you may need as you go through the process. And Porsche, I want to give you a chance to chime in on that as well, because both of you, ironically, everyone, they are interested in moving abroad. So maybe they don't have an exact time or date yet, or even maybe location, but they're seeking it out. So I think it's really interesting to have them chime in on what you should look for and in doulas if you're going to be seeking doulas abroad. So Porsche, I'll give you an opportunity to chime in.
Yes, it's very exciting as my family is preparing to do an extended scouting trip, and we are looking at 3 countries right now. And so I've already been digging in the parent groups, right, as an unschooling mom, looking to see where people are hanging out. But also I'm paying attention to people saying, I just had my baby with midwife so-and-so. And I'm like, ooh, let me make a note, because when I'm there, this is my business in motion, right? So if they're talking about what kind of money you got and all of this, and what are you doing? I work in the maternal health space. Let me connect with your Ministry of Health or your Department of Health or whatever it is, and get kind of connected in that way. So in addition to the things mentioned, I would absolutely be looking for some type of social proof, like even after people mention someone. I found so many people. I'm trying to think what country I was initially looking. It might have been Costa Rica, where I was
about to ask you, could you share the 3 countries if you didn't mind?
My top 3 right now are Colombia, Costa Rica, and it's kind of a like a war for the third, right? Ecuador or Jamaica.
Okay.
And so I've been already starting to look at what people have posted or shared, following hashtags, and then taking it to social media or Google, right? To see, do they actually have a practice listed, or were they in a beautiful article in their neighborhood being honored for something lately, and seeing about capacity. So that's another thing that I would really ask about, is their capacity, because there is the local Native community that might be hitting them up. And especially in midwifery and doula support, backup doulas are a must-have, and this is a person that can pop in the case this person gets tired or they break their leg, and that should be a part of your contract in any circumstance. And so for doulas, I fuss at them a lot. You are not invincible. The day you go to a birth will be the day your baby has a fever, and you're going to choose your baby over someone else. You just are. And so where's your backup to step in so that your client isn't SOL and you charge them all this money and now you're not there for their experience? And so for a midwife, I'd be asking about their number two, because chances are they have an apprentice, a student, and a number two. And I would want to know, where are they? What's going on with them and their credentialing, and what's their, availability as well, and making sure that you meet all of their team before signing a contract, handing over some deposit or whatever. Same for the doula. And so there might be collectives similar to what we have here, where 2 or 3 people link up and they say, we're going to hold it down for this particular area in Costa Rica, or particular area in Kenya, right? They're going to hold it down for that area. So find that out. The other thing I would ask too, straight up front, is about any type of language concerns to consider. So if there is a transfer, is this a mixed hospital? Should I expect to be using some type of device if I'm not comfortable with whatever language? And also, if I need to be helivaced or moved or any type of thing, can I expect to be able to communicate with somebody, right? And so, of course, some of this is going to have to do with the country you choose. But dear American, okay, and if you was born here or you later obtained citizenship, I'm talking to you in America. Please don't go with the blind view that everyone needs to submit to your English.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so if don't do that. So ask the question and get the people in line to actually help you. I know we do that here, and we look side-eye at somebody that's speaking Russian or speaking English, and our translation systems in the hospitals are often terrible. But please don't go to nobody else's land demanding what you think you can get at the house. And so please ask that question as well. If you need to be transferred, need to be moved, what does it look like if you're not as strong or confident in one of the native languages? Because depending on the country, it might be 3 or 4. Okay. My husband is from Nigeria. I could come across a whole bunch of languages.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
He would have to be with me, because I'm not about to play myself. He would have to
No, that, you know what, that is key. Those are some of the things, no matter what service you're looking for, if you're going for medical tourism, you are going to have to get that in place long before you sign a contract, in terms of the language, the backup, as you mentioned, because if you go, and I just gave this example because I did a video on dental tourism. If before you ask a question about, oh, okay, you're going to provide me with X treatment, what about if that person doesn't cover certain aspects, or you have an emergency or something goes wrong and they need to do something a little more extensive, but they're not trained to do it? That means their backup or someone that they know. Wouldn't you want to meet them ahead of time and ask them questions and vet them in the same manner that you vetted this main person? So those are some of the things that people have to do no matter what. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because when it comes to language, you certainly don't want to be in a situation like giving birth and having some form of language barriers, or people not understanding what you need, along with what you desire for your positive birthing experience, especially if it's something where you have to be transferred out for maybe more something a little bit more detailed, because maybe you're in an area where you're lacking something that's needed at the moment. So yeah, that is critical. I love this. This has been a really great conversation, and I know there's a whole lot more we could even cover in this. I wanted to first go D, because I was going to ask you both to provide me with the audience with your social media or your websites, whatever it may be. But I want you to go ahead and touch on a point. You look like you wanted to say something.
Okay, there are a couple of things. Portia and I might be in the same places because I didn't expect to love Costa Rica either. And Ecuador, we were in Ecuador on this trip also. So yeah, but Mexico has been a location that I've had mamas that this is their second or third or fourth birth. They've decided to birth in Mexico and have had very good quality of care. So I've been with these families with hospital birth, midwife birth, home birth, and then they were like, I want to do this outside the country because it's more affordable. My family can come with me, and then it is an affordable way. It's an affordable way to have access to a beautiful experience. But also, my current client had her tubal ligation after 40 in Mexico. And so, yeah, she got pregnant within 3 months postpartum. This clinic came highly recommended. And was recommended by a friend. And so I've been doing my own research, and there is a whole community of doulas and midwives throughout, but there are some hot spots for where birth workers are. Playa del Carmen. If you Playa del Carmen is a hot spot for birthing tourism. And there we have support groups, postpartum groups, mom groups that are regularly meeting because so many people are coming that are English speaking, that are birthing, that want a birth worker to support them during their experience. And many times the medical staff are also English speaking. I know my GYN in Mexico City was trained in Texas. My doctor that I met with in Cuenca, Ecuador, spoke perfect English. And so I think a lot of the concerns for can I birth safely outside the US, some of the barriers that we consider really are not necessarily a barrier, but you should be in every health interaction a integral partner in your care.
Absolutely.
This choice for medical tourism means I want to be in the front seat of my care. That means I'm going to do research. I'm going to know how to vet. I'm going to know the questions to ask a doctor about their experience. I'm not going to take things for granted, and I want to check and recheck. I want to see what the infection rates are for the hospital. I want to know, I want to and need to know those things. I'm willing to be an active participant. And what I do know is people are getting way better experiences. And it's worth looking deeper into. And so on my channel, I'm sharing the stories of women that are birthing in Tanzania, in Mexico, in Curacao, so that you can hear their actual experience and see why they're choosing to take that path.
Oh, that's great. And I want you to share your website and your channel as well, Dee, because what you brought up about looking into things like infection rates, which a lot of these things are preventable. So by doing your due diligence, by just researching, apart from asking in various communities, but also looking it up, that information is readily available, but people don't know where to search. I tell my entire community, look at the Joint Commission International first. It's not only for hospitals, it's for outpatient centers, it's for laboratories, it's for any place that offers care. They even do that for home health internationally. So I did put that link in the in the comment, in the chat, and I will also make sure it's in the description as well. But I want to make sure that both of you share where people can contact you, or at least look at what your websites are offering, your services you're offering. So if you don't mind sharing that, I want to make sure that we can go ahead and put that in the comments here for this audience.
Sure. So you can find me, Reclaim Black Motherhood, everywhere, as in Facebook, Instagram, and .com. If you do reclaimblackmotherhood.com/social, it will take you to a suite of like current things that's happening. So you can book an intro chat with me for 30 minutes, whether you're a parent, looking for some different things, or if you are a perinatal professional, that's an option. I also have a newsletter that currently reflects only national things that are perfect for perinatal professionals. So research opportunities, funding opportunities, and grants, things we should be looking at around mental health, lactation, and maternal health. In addition to some freebies, resources, downloads, whether you are a professional or a parent. And so there you can also find out about coaching, and via my website. If you are looking just for some help around, this is a lot. I hear what you're saying, Porsche and Dee. Like, I hear the things y'all are mentioning, but it's a lot. I've had a loss. I've had a trauma. This is my first baby. And I also have PTSD, and I'm also have this other diagnosis. It can be a lot. And so part of what I offer is consults to help people plan actually for the birth experience, the postpartum, and the lactation. And so if overwhelm or something is activating you, you can get help in that way. If it's going to be burdensome for you to activate that research mode for you, that doesn't mean you're not worthy of knowing these details. So please reach out.
Oh, please. That's excellent to know that you have help every step of the way, and someone to advocate on your behalf, or just show you what you need to know. Because again, it can be overwhelming. And as you're going through the process, it's very hormonal. There are a number of things that normally you might catch, but it might slip you because a number of things are going on just with your body. So I urge you guys to reach out and take advantage of the resources that are available to you. And Dee, go ahead and share your resources as well.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is Big Sis Doula. And I'm Big Sis Doula also on Instagram. Still kind of quiet. We're growing. We are leaving this year, 2025. And so where we land, I'll probably provide the in-person support. But we are creating a virtual community because the decision to birth outside of the US is kind of still a new space. Mm-hmm. And so what I found is mamas can kind of feel a little lost in the other expat-y kind of travel groups. And so being able to come together. So we're the global birthing village. And so that will offer the virtual support groups, education, and trainings. And so one of the things that that I am advertising on my channel is the 360 birth conversation, birth abroad conversation. So if you'd like to schedule a consult time to take a look at, hey, could I use insurance if I'm birthing outside the US? What cost or considerations, how do I get my things settled, where I am, and how do I, kind of establish this temporary time abroad? Let's talk about it, because I think people have more options and opportunities than they may be aware of. So
that's true.
Really Very glad to provide that support as I also exit the US.
That is amazing. The Global Birthing Village, I want to be clear, is that on your channel, Big Sis Doula, or is that a website itself, or how does that work?
That is going to be Facebook.
Okay, Facebook. Yes. Okay. I'm writing it in the chat. That's why I want to make sure.
Facebook and then the website, but incrementally, because
okay,
yeah.
No,
You do what you can do. Right?
that's right. You do what you can do, right? It's okay. It's about ease, right? So I want to thank you both for taking the time to have this discussion. It's a much needed discussion for Black women in particular. I think that it's really helpful for others to learn what, number one, support and services doulas offer, and also what kinds of things to look for when they're thinking about birthing abroad and using a doula. So I encourage all of you that are watching, if you are interested in birthing abroad, or if you know someone who is or support someone, make sure you share this video with them. Take a moment to hit the like button, share this with others, because it will help the YouTube algorithm inform other Black women about this live and help them to also make informed decisions if they decide to birth abroad. So I want to thank my guests, and I want to thank you guys as the audience for chiming in. Everything should be in the comment section where you can reach both Dee and Portia, and I'll make sure that it's also in the description. Okay, so until next time, be well. Thank you.